Hello friends and welcome to Pathologic Volume 3, Episode 2. In this short volume, we are setting puzzles rather than solving them, but you can still solve them by using the links in the description below. The finished puzzle will be down there for your amusement. And today we are going to be setting a Slitherlink puzzle, a favorite puzzle type for many. If you are not familiar, I encourage you to go back into the past videos to look at the one where we solved a Slitherlink puzzle developed by someone else earlier. But today, if all you need is a refresher, we will just take a quick look at the rules. Slitherlink is a loop drawing puzzle. We will connect some pairs of orthogonally adjacent dots to form a single non-intersecting loop. So orthogonally is saying horizontally or vertically. We don't go diagonally between dots. And non-intersecting meaning that we can't have the loop cross each other and make knots. It's a single simple loop. Clues represent the number of edges drawn surrounding the clue, up to 4. So this 0 is telling us that none of the 4 potential edges here are drawn in the answer, while the 3 shows that there are 3 such edges drawn and 1 is not an edge. Today I am setting a Slitherlink puzzle, and I'm using the Puzzlink interface again. It does a pretty nice job of letting me switch between edit and answer mode and putting in the helper marks that I need without a lot of other interface cruft. So this works pretty well. And the way I am going to start is by thinking about patterns that can be put in the grid that give some constraints on the solve right away to give some structure. So for example, the pattern of having 2 3s next to each other is constrained because we know that the open end of these can't be the outside ones, because that would result in the other 3 being unfillable. It can't be the middle one because it would result in a loop that was self-contained, assuming we have some other clues elsewhere in the grid. That's not going to be legal. So that immediately gives us this pattern. And similarly, if we've got 2 3s and an angle, that's a pattern that we can prove produces this in terms of known quantity stuff. So those are some of the patterns that we might think about putting in the grid. And putting things in the corners and the sides is also useful. So we just need a place to start. So we'll start with one of those patterns that we just covered. Let's start with the pair of 3s in a diagonal. So supposing we have that, we know that there can't be 2 edges on a single 3 that touch this corner, because then the other 3 would be unfillable. So these outside ones become guaranteed, forcing no lines in some of these areas. And where can we go from there? We can do something like if we put a 0 somewhere, that gives us a whole lot of information, obviously, so we probably will end up doing that. I'm going to wait on that until I know where that's going to be advantageous. Let's put another number somewhere along this outside, like here, I think. So I'm trying to think of what I can do to give us a boost in the direction of a solve without just giving away the answer too much. If I were to make this, well, we don't need to make a hugely fiendish puzzle or anything, so let's give a gimme and see what happens with it. Let's give a 0. So a 0, we can notate by saying that none of these are lines, obviously. But the more interesting thing is we've got a 0 on the outside of the grid, so that is outside of the loop. And the fact that it's a 0 means that that shading now spreads to its neighbors. This 3 now must be inside the loop, and the inside must continue down here. And the outsideness has to continue around to here. And let's say we put, let's finish up this little diamond with a 1 here. That 1 now is not going to be able to come up here and around. That would be illegal, so that means that this is going to be outside the loop, and the 1 could be on this side or this side, depending on whether that 3 is inside or outside. Okay, what other interesting things can we do? Let's look at putting something in something that would prevent, let's put another 3 actually right here. If we have this, so now we've got a little pattern here that these 3s force these lines. That's going to do a lot. Maybe too much, but we'll run with it for a second. So that's going to make these lines all connect, make this inside, which makes these all outside, makes these all inside. I think I've reversed my normal inside and outside colors, but that's fine. It doesn't really matter as long as we're consistent with it. This 1 has to be here. And now we have to connect this to this, so it'll be interesting to make that hard to do. So how am I going to do that? I can put another 0 clue right here, which is going to further extend the outside region. And let's say that we put a 1 here. That now forces this line not to turn down. It has to go to the east and south. Putting all of these in, this 1 means that that is also in. And now what? Now we will keep this coming down here with another 1, which can't be either of those. And we want to build up another path down at the bottom somehow. How are we going to do that? We can look at some other patterns that we could put in the grid now, probably is the way we're going to do that. So we covered the 3 in a line, threes in a diagonal line, 3s in a vertical line or horizontal line. We can also kind of split up those 3s with some other stuff and get some interesting results. Another pattern that I know off the top of my head is putting 1s and in between the threes. Ones or twos that separate threes can do some interesting things. So if we've got a 1 here, we already know that these two are not colored in any way. And if we didn't have a line here, suppose we had that pattern, then where is it going to go next? It's going to have to travel east, giving this as empty, and like so. So that's a few steps there. But usually when you have threes close together and numbers right in between them, things like that tend to fall out. So the upshot of this is we're going to have to have this be a line and this be a line. So you can, so we can know that for sure. Could it come straight through here? I think that is fine. We would do this, and we would satisfy both of our ones. If this is not the case, then these both go like this. But either way, these outside ones are not filled in, regardless of which way we do that. So this is going to be not a line. Okay, so how are we going to continue this wall down a little bit farther and make it a wall, ideally? I would like this to be... would I like this to be inside or outside the loop? That's what I need to decide here, I think. If I were to make this a 3, then we are going to very quickly know the disposition of this 3. And we've got all of the coloring looking like this. The 1 now comes over here like so. And this has to come out here. And so we've got the yellow region continuing to grow, which is good for what I want to do next. I think I want this to be a 1, because then from here, this line has to go one way or the other, so both of these are going to be out, and then I can continue this diagonal with a 2 like that, which, or even better, a 1, because that, then, the 1 can't be either of these. They would both go into that dot and not be able to exit. So now we've got a 1 on one of these, and not the other, and then we can put another 3 on this end, and we can know something about that 3, that it doesn't contain both of these lines, because that would make this 1 impossible to fill. So it must contain both of those lines. And so now we've got a diagonal going through the whole puzzle. That gives us some information. And then I'd like to continue that all the way to the edge, make that a 2, because that's going to force this to be in, which could do some interesting things for us. It makes this an out, and if this is in, that still might be okay. I'd like to force the inside of the loop to go around the long way if possible. We can maybe think about that as we work on these 2 corners now. let's put a hard block on one of the sides with a 0. That's going to be good because that will force these all to be yellow. And since they're yellow and all the greens have to connect, the greens will come through here and it will connect to those. Oh, that's not legal. Okay, that breaks the puzzle. That's interesting. Okay. Because we know that this, I should have just colored that. That would have made that more quickly visible. Okay, so these are all the same. If these are yellow, is that the problem? If these are yellow, then maybe that wasn't the problem. Maybe the problem came earlier. The problem came earlier when I put that 0 blocking things off. If I put the 0 here, then that forces green where I don't want it. Okay. If I put 0 here, that's okay still. Let's do that. Put 0 here. These are all out. The green area has to come through here now. That's nice because that gives us these lines, it gives us these lines. Good. Okay. So next, and what if I put a 0 here as well? That's going to connect to this, making all of these insides. Good. I'm going to have to do something about this area right here if I do that, though. Maybe I make this a 1, which forces green in both of those areas as well. And it's okay for this to be either color. Are either colors impossible at this point? I don't think so. I think they're both okay. So I want this to be a 1 as well. So actually, no, I don't want that. I want to be able to figure that out by virtue of what happens here, ideally. Another 0 on the edge would give us that. We're almost getting a nice little symmetry thing. But we can't do that because of this 2. Let's see now. If I want this to be yellow, I need to say something about this area probably. Okay, let's all I need to do is define which of these sides has the line. Now, a Slitherlink is an easy puzzle to construct a valid one, and a difficult puzzle to construct an interesting one, is what I find. Let's assume that this is going to be yellow and, well, we're going to just go ahead and put a 2 here. By putting a 2 there, we force lines here. That still doesn't define the quality of this, but I think if we stretch that down like this, now this cell is going to be able to tell us the color of this. because of the alternation. And I said I wanted this to be yellow, so I'm going to make sure that this is yellow with another 0 on an edge. Maybe I've overused that technique on this because that probably is going to make this a easy-ish puzzle to solve, but that's okay. So that makes this green, which makes these green, which makes this yellow, which makes the rest of these yellow, which finishes these. Good. And now this green needs to make it to that green, which was the goal of this whole exercise, to make sure that that happens. Okay, and let's put a 2 here. That wouldn't be, 2s are the weakest numbers in a Slitherlink in terms of giving us information. This 2, though, now that we know that what color it is, we know that that is the other line. Now this 3 is completely defined, giving us that, and that has completed the bottom right corner of the puzzle. Now we've got 2 completely separate regions to figure out something interesting to do. What other starting patterns can we do? Let's see. Corner patterns. Maybe something in one of these corners that could be interesting. If we've got 1s in a corner, like so, that's slightly interesting because either if the loop comes around the outside, then these can't be part of the loop. And if it doesn't, if this is not part of the loop never can come in here, because if it did, then let's say it came in, let's say the loop makes it into the corner. Let's start that way. If the loop makes it into the corner, then it's got to come in on the outside of both of these, because if either of them went to the middle, you'd end up with a second line on one of these two. So if it comes into the corner, it uses both the edges. And if it doesn't come into the corner, certainly it doesn't do this. So it basically, the upshot is it can never use these two edges. It either comes all the way into the corner or doesn't visit it at all. So since this right here is all outside the loop, this could be an interesting pattern to use, because we've kind of taken the binary does the loop enter a corner or not and extended it to does it enter this whole region or not. And now that we've done that, let's answer the question by putting something here. And that's something, if that something is another 1, that then says, well, it's not this 1, because that would have nowhere to go. So that's yellow. And now the 1 is on this side. And again, if the 1 came down here, it would have nowhere to go because of this 1. So the 1 is up here. That makes all of these yellow. Like that. And now this does need a line to touch it, so it does that and that. That means we finished this 1 as well. We've made those green. And let's say we want to isolate these as much as we can to force them to go a particular direction. So let's keep this area yellow. We can do that with a 1 here, forcing this to go up and making that yellow. And now we're going to need to do something to define this area because it's ambiguous at the moment. And we're not going to be able to do it with something in that cell. So it's going to be this cell, I think. Let's make it another 1. We'll make it a little loop of 1s here. And that is going to tell us that this border either goes across the bottom or across the top, neither of these two. And this one, actually this is where we should have started. This 1 here forces that. So it's going to force the border to be at the top here and around here. Not here. This is going to have to meet up with the rest of the loop. That's where that coloring is going to come in handy. So now we've got this to define still undefined. Let's put another 2, another normally weak 2 that will in fact answer the question here. And let's see how many other things we can deal with 2s, because again they're just handy. If a 2 went here, then that's kind of good. We're going to have at least one of these be green. And a 2 here forces exactly one of them to be green. So let's do that. Put a 2 here. So this has to be green. We can't put lines on both of these because then this cell right here would have to be yellow. So one of the 2 lines is on this side. The other one will tell us whether this loop pokes up here or whether it pokes over here. And we can define which one is the truth by virtue of what else happens along this path as we finish it up. Let's make sure that we can define for certain what happens in this cell. That's a dangerous one. Let's say we make this one a 1. That tells us that it comes down like this, that we've kind of only extended the issue a little bit further south, but that's okay. Then we want this right here to be a 3. Why do we want it to be a 3? Because a 3, when we've got a single line entering, defines the opposite 2 as walls. And by defining those as walls, we know that this 3 must now be inside the loop, which is going to do that. And now we can answer our question with one of our lovely 2s going there. That 2 is outside, and we'll need to come down like that. And that'll be inside. This 2 is now going to need another wall here, which finishes that up. Great, got almost all of it done. We just have this corner to do now. And this 3 is completely defined. Should have done that a little bit earlier. Forcing the green area up here. And what are we going to do with this last little problem like Maria here? I think we want the loop to come into this corner up here. And the easiest way to force that is going to be another 2 right here, which is going to have to be these 2. That's going to force this. And then we just have to, let's see, we could put a 1 here, which will have to be this one, because if it went up, there'd be nowhere to go. That forces this to be green, forces this to be yellow, which forces this to be green. And we've got this last little Tears of the Kingdom petroglyph to deal with. And I think the nicest way of handling that, it's probably going to be one of these two cells, maybe both of them. If this, yeah, if these are both 1s, that's nice because this one is fully defined, and as soon as we do that, this one becomes fully defined. And that gives us a full loop. So now let's check our work by erasing the answer and going through this in answer mode. And I'm going to try to solve this without coloring, even though coloring is my preferred method, but a lot of people don't use coloring. So I'm going to just do those parts first and see how far it takes me before I go back to my beloved coloring. So I'm just marking the zeros and the forced edges that result from them. And then I'll mark the known patterns, which are the 3s, the easiest remembered patterns, which are the 3s like these, and the 3s that are diagonal. This 3 is now fully defined, which forces this 3. This 1 is done. So this comes through here and down here. This 1 is done. These 3s are a known quantity now, which means that this 1 is done. The 3 here must come through here, finishing that 1. One of these is the one that this cares about, so that these two definitely are not. Therefore, neither of them are in for this one as well, which gives us this 2, which gives us this 2 here. And let's see, these are out. These are out. Nothing can come down here or here. This 1 is now complete. We can't go up here. So this 1 is complete. And we are done with this 3. Can't get up here. One of these is the 1, but it can't be this one because there'd be nowhere for it to go. So this comes down here. This 3 must take these 2 slots because of the line coming in here, and this must be completed here, finishing off my 3. And my this 1 can't come down around this corner, so both of those are out. Now this 1 can't come through here because then it would have to go up. So that one's out. Here's our 1. One of these is the other end of this line. So both of these are out for this 1. Let's see, the one clue here. One of the challenges with doing the test solve of your own puzzle is trying not to use knowledge that you have about the solution and trying to put yourself in the mindset of someone seeing it for the first time. This 2 here in a corner has to have these 2 lines because it either loops around here or it never enters the corner at all. But if it did this, that would break a 3. We can't have a corner impinging on a 3 like that. So it is like that. The 3 must come around here. And let's see, where would I be looking next as a solver? Let's see, this left side probably can't go there. This has to come up here. This line will need to, can't go straight. Okay, so we've got, let's think about endpoint parity. 1, 2, 3 endpoints in this region. Here, which means that that would be unsolvable unless we had another endpoint. So the only place that we can add an endpoint is through this gap right there. So that gives us that one, which gives us the one that we need there. One of those is the other one, and it's going to be this one in order to not close the loop or dead end ourselves. This has to come up here. This has to come up here. And we can't go over to this side. Okay, and now this line has to come out to the rest of the world. This 2 now continues here. And now this line is hooked up there. The one here is done. Good. This doesn't connect. So if these two were the 2, then we would end up with a prematurely closed loop. So this has to be one of the 2 sides. And now this 2 is complete. This 2 is complete. And now this, we now have this whole chunk of the loop that needs to hook up with the rest of things. This endpoint can't match up with this because that would make the red a dead end. It can't hook up with this because we closed the loop too early. So this does hook up with this side. And therefore, the red has to come out here and then meet up either up this way or down this way with the 2. I guess that doesn't tell us which one of those 2 possibilities is the truth. Let's see whether we can use that endpoint logic with this one. We've got 2 endpoints here. 1, 2, 3, 4 endpoints here. We're all matched up. In order to get to the outside world, we're going to need 2 lines to escape this area. And they're going to have to come through here. And there are only 2 vertical segments available for that. So we're going to use both of them. Like so. Now the 1 is done. So it's going to have to continue around like that. Okay, so now this can't, even though they're different colors, they're actually virtually part of the same loop. We could see that more clearly if we finish this off first, probably. But I'm just going to roll with that for a second. They can't, we know that these 2 endpoints can't meet. So we're going to just do that. And then these have to keep on going. This is a little bit more like solving a simple loop by thinking of it this way. This has to take one or the other of these ones, which forces this around like so. This one now is stranded unless it hooks up right there. And that gives us the other one for this, the side for this one. And this all connects up here. Now, if the 2 were these 2, then we've stranded the red again. So this has got to be, oops, no, actually, it tells me that it's not these 2. Could it be this one and this one? If it was this and this, then we've got a problem here. If it was this and this, then we've got a problem here, closing the loop too early. And this is a problem, obviously, because it's so that takes this out of the equation. All right, and then we can finish that up that way. Finish this one up. This 2 needs a second side, and like so. And we have solved it. And so that is a solution that's probably quite a bit harder than the inside-outside coloring that I normally use, but I like to know if the puzzle is solvable using both techniques. That is tends to be a good sign for approachability. So that is how I set a Slitherlink.